All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the anatomy of a dog. And we're going to use this 3D model of this little puppy here, which is from Sketchfab. I'll go ahead and drop the link in the description. And we are going to talk about some anatomical regional differences. I'm not going to go over all the anatomical regions of the dog. Hopefully, you can start to make some connections. If you've watched the video on the anatomical regions of the human and that of the horse, there's a lot of similarities, right? But we're going to talk about some very specific regions in the dog, right? And so one of the things that we want to point out is that it has this elongated snout here, right? And that is the muzzle. So the muzzle is the elongated nasal region. Now, in a dog, if we sort of zoom in here, notice that the nasal region comes back and it has this very harsh angle where it meets the frontal bone, right? So where the nasal bone comes back and meets that frontal bone, the frontal region, or what some people just call the forehead, right? There's that harsh angle, almost like a 90-degree angle where it comes back and then goes up. Where that angle is, that sort of pivot point of that angle, that is known as the stop. So the stop is the point where the nasal bone essentially meets the frontal bone. Okay, then back here you have the occipital region. Some people just call this the occiput, right? But it is the occipital region. And then we have the crest coming back, or the neck. And then we have the withers, which is the interscapular region. We have the back, the loin, and the croup, right? So this is the croup's basically going to be your sacral region, right? The loin is sort of the lower lumbar region. Your back is going to be like your thoracic region. Okay. Now, as we look sort of at a lateral view of our dog here, right, we have the thigh, or the hip, right? This is going to be the femoral region here. And notice that it comes down and you have a joint right here. So the femur comes down and then boom, joint right there. So this joint right here, right there, that is the stifle. And that's the equivalent of the human knee. Right, so you have femoral coming down, and then you have the tibia coming out here, and then look, now here you have another joint, right? So this is the ankle joint, which is referred to as the hock, right? So you have femoral region, you have the stifle, then you have the lower thigh, which is the tibial region, and then you have the ankle joint, which is the hock. And then you have the pastern, which is essentially your metatarsals, right? And then you are going to have the paw region. Okay. Up here you have the shoulder joint, so you have the scapular region here. You have the humeral region, and then you have the elbow joint here. So this is the elbow joint, okay, coming down here. And then we have our lower limb, the antebrachium, right, which is the forearm. And then you have the carpal region, which is the wrist region. And then you have the paw and the metacarpals, and then the phalanges down here, right? And so those are the anatomical regions of the dog.